I'm Drew.
I'm Tony.
And this is Back for Our Future, the show that goes back to look at our past and yours, whether you like it or not. And we use the mechanism of movies and movie theaters and music to help us do that. Tony, good to see you again, buddy. And I'm going to let you tee up this episode because it just sucks. Just not this episode, but just it's getting a little obnoxious.
Well, it's just funny because the last episode that we did, I mean, right at the very end of it, you were like, well, let's hope to God that we're back to our original formula. And I was like, and immediately, as soon as we got off, D'Angelo passed away, like immediately. And then Drew's, I mean, it's like this whole list of people have passed away since we did that episode. And so I know it's weird to do the tribute episodes sometimes, but I think it's kind of important because, I like people to be able to go back and look at all these people, and we don't necessarily highlight individuals as much on the show all the time. Because we talk about movie theaters and we talk about seeing the movies, and we will talk about certain people in the films and certain people in music, but I think it's kind of nice to be able to go back and look at everybody one last time, and people can go back and see their artistry and listen to their songs or watch their movies or watch them on TV or whatever the medium might be. So, it stinks, but at the same time, I think it's important.
I couldn't agree with you more. And this one's got a mix. We got musicians in the mix. We got a lot of people, a lot of like, some of these are like family members in some ways of how influential they were to one of us or both of us. And then of course one of them is everybody's favorite mom. So like it's an interesting mix. I'll let you kick it off, 'cause obviously we're going to start with arguably one of the biggest, and as if you know Tony, you know that when like Hulk Hogan was big for the both of us, but this one is big for you, and I hate to see that he passed away, but I'll let you tee this one up.
Yeah, it really stinks, man. But I was a huge Ace Frehley fan because I spent pretty much my entire childhood listening to the band Kiss, and I still listen to them today. But I mean, but they were very much an extremely influential band as a child, and what people don't always know about me, because they know I love sports and they know I love movies, but they don't realize that my first passion was actually music.
Yep.
So music was kind of my first thing, my first true love, and even though I never became a musician or anything like that, my history of knowledge in music is pretty vast, and Kiss was one of those bands for me. Like, I loved everything about them, right? They had this makeup, and they had this like crazy awesome rock music sound, and they were just so flashy, and you could just really see them, and they were just bigger than life. And even though sometimes the the makeup and their presentation would be kind of scary and a little much for a child sometimes, which I'll explain in a little bit. This is one of my favorite bands of all time, no doubt about it. And Ace Frehley probably was my favorite member of this band. Quite honestly, or at least the character was, the spaceman, the space ace, and I was a huge Ace Frehley fan. And of course I was born in 1976, but from his time in 1973 through 1982, he was in this band, and of course he'd come back for various reunion type things. But he played all the way up in this band, all the way up until they recorded "Creatures of the Night" in 1982. So he's on a lot of their iconic stuff, and a lot of their songs that you have heard over the years and have made the Kiss catalog what it is today. Ace Frehley probably was lead guitarist on that song.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean he's an icon. He's a legend. Sadly, he was supposed to be playing here in St. Louis October 11th,
Oh man.
and he fell in his studio and ended up in the hospital. I think, and they made an announcement like September 25th. So he was supposed to play October 11th here in St. Louis, which I had won tickets to. So I was
Oh man.
definitely going to be there for that. And yeah, and then he fell in the studio, and they had canceled his the rest of his 2025. And of course, we didn't. I don't think anyone knew how bad it really was. And of course,
Right.
he passed away because of that fall. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Kiss was always one of those bands for me. I just like I said, they're just their sound just was it blew my mind. When I was a kid, I never heard anything like it, and so I know he's an icon to quite a few guitar players over the years, including guys like Tom Morello and Slash, and I mean those are some pretty big names.
Well, it's interesting because for me growing up, my mom doesn't like a lot of rock and roll music, and so I wasn't. I had no exposure to Kiss growing up. I just didn't. And if I did, I didn't know who it was. And it's oddly ironic to me that you bring that up in the sense that, like, for me, the first exposure I had was in the '90s when I believe it was in the '90s when they came out with that Kiss tribute
Oh,
album,
yeah, the '90s. Yeah.
right? And I remember listening to that, knowing that you had loved Kiss, and so for me, it was exciting because it was like what. Whereas I didn't really know them, this Kiss tribute album comes out and it's bands that I do know and love covering these songs. And a lot of them were like, oh, I have heard this song before. Oh, I have heard this song before. But that was my first opening to it. And it was most of that stuff was, their bigger hits. So a lot of it was Ace Frehley stuff. And I think back to that record and I listened to it maybe about 8 months ago. I just got in the mood because, rock and roll all night long and all that stuff. Those songs get stuck in my head all the time.
Yeah,
So
well, we mentioned it on the show. That album got mentioned here
yeah,
because we're in that time frame where that album did come out. But
right.
yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's an amazing record for sure.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
So a couple things here, right? And about Kiss. And number one, I used to have this mask, this Kiss mask, and it was a Gene Simmons mask. And I like I said, I loved Kiss. I loved the makeup and everything else. But as a little kid, they could be a little bit scary in a lot of ways, right? I mean, especially Gene Simmons, right? Because he's always got that face, and with the tongue and he's always got this crazy, scary little scowl on his face and everything else. And so I had the Gene Simmons mask, and when I lived in St. Louis, our house was set up that you could be in the living room and the couch was against the wall, and if you sat on the left side of the couch, you could kind of peek down the first maybe couple feet or so of the hallway. Couldn't see down the whole thing, but you could see down a couple feet of the hallway. And I remember like sitting on this left side of the couch, and I was very little. I was probably about 5 years old, and I remember seeing something coming down that hallway, and I didn't think anything of it at the time because I knew my mom was in the house and stuff like that. And this was before my brother was born. Before my well, I think it's before my first brother was born too. I think it's before Joey in 1983, and that's definitely before Jeff in 1986. But I could see something happening in the hallway, and I didn't know what it was. And so I didn't think much of it. I was still watching TV, and so all of a sudden, I I see this head poke around the corner of the hallway, and it's somebody in this Kiss mask.
Oh
It's
no.
like something out of your worst nightmares, right? Like
Oh
this,
no.
like it's just the most awful thing. Like you don't want that happening at your house,
Right.
right? And so all of a sudden, I see somebody in this mask, and I can pretty much tell it's my mom, but she's not answering to mom. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, Mom, stop doing that. You know, I'm like, Mom, stop doing that. And she's not stopping.
Yep.
So she kind of torments me with this mask. Like all of a sudden she's like running around chasing me with a Kiss mask on. And it stops after about 2 minutes. But it was pretty traumatizing. I got to be really honest with you. At the time, I was like, Mom, you can't do stuff like that. I was a little kid, and but she knew I loved Kiss. Didn't necessarily want to get chased around the house with the Kiss mask, but still pretty pretty fun. Um,
Oh yeah.
my mom was always pretty fun like that, but
Good grief.
and then I got another great story involving Kiss. So and it involves Ace Frehley. So um, I maybe a couple years after that, I was in. It was probably like 1983 or so, somewhere in that range. And there's a guy who lives, and I'm a huge fan of Kiss, and I have my big record player set downstairs, and I have a couple. I have a couple Kiss albums, a couple few Kiss albums at the time. And my buddy comes over, and I'm like, man, I'm trying to, get some more Kiss records, and he's like, well, my sister has like all the Kiss records, like every one. And I was like, what? At that point, there were probably about 10 or 11 albums out for Kiss. And so I was like, what, really? And this guy literally lived one street over. Like, I could get to his house just by walking through my other friend's yard, and we were right at his house. And so it was really close. And so he came over and slept over quite a bit. And so he's over, and he goes, yeah, man. He goes, let me talk to my sister and see if she'll loan you the vinyls, and we'll go from there. I said, hey, okay, cool. And he's like, you can make copies of them, which obviously we would take vinyl and make copies to cassettes, back then, which people don't know that, but that's what we did. And so he talked to her, and she agreed to allow me to borrow those albums for a good bit of time so I can make copies. And he brought them all over, huge stack of them. And so, and so, I'm pretty excited about it, of course. Cause I'm now gonna own pretty much the entire Kiss catalog at this point, up until that point, right? And so I'm getting ready. There's a guy, but here's the thing: there's a guy living at my parents' house. It's my cousin. God rest his soul. He passed away in 2017. But he's kind of like an older brother, Jerry Lee Walters, and so he's living at the house, and now I have this big stack of vinyl, and in order to listen to them at my record player, I have to take them downstairs.
Right.
And downstairs was a finished basement. It was very finished, and my parents had like a bar down there and the big screen TV and all this stuff down there. And so it's finished. They had carpeting and everything else, but the stairs were very much still concrete. And so he decides, and I don't know why he decided to do this. He's in his 20s or something of that nature.
Lord.
But I'm getting ready to walk downstairs with all this vinyl, and I'm a little kid. I'm not that old. I'm like probably 6, 7 years old tops at the time. And he decides that he's going to do this little thing at the top of the stairs where he's going to fake push me down the stairs. But
Oh
he's going to,
no.
yeah, but he's going to grab me by my shirt and pull me back with the other arm. so that I have no chance to actually fall. But it's going to be like a jarring thing, but he's going to have me the entire time. Now, I didn't know he was going to do this. I had no clue that this was getting ready to happen. So I go down the stairs before him, and I have an entire my arms are full of vinyl. Okay, and he does this thing. He jerks me forward, grabs me, pulls me back with his other arm. So I had no ability to actually fall down the steps. That was never going to happen. We hope. But when he did that, it jerked all the vinyl out of my arms.
Oh no!
All of them. I don't own any of these records. None of these are mine. And so all this stuff goes tumbling down these concrete steps. And I mean, you know how fragile vinyl is anyway.
Yes.
And so
Oh God.
I'm looking at him and I'm screaming at him. I'm like, dude, I don't own any of these records. I don't own any of these records. They're not mine. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, bro, look what's happened. And so I just hustle down the steps, go down there, and it's all laying down on the bottom of the stairs at this point, everything. And I'm just like, oh no, like, what am I going to do? And luckily, every record is intact with no scratches. Most of them stayed in their sleeves. A couple of them didn't. One of them is completely shattered. It like broken probably about 3 or 4 pieces. It was unsalvageable. And so I was just like, oh my God, I'm a little kid. Like, how am I going to replace this? And, for whatever reason, he doesn't take immediate ownership of doing this.
Right.
So when my mom finds out about it, she thinks I just dropped the records down the stairs. And so she's like, oh, you're going to have to pay her back with, like, you're going to have to give her your own records and, whatever. And I was like, but I didn't do it. I had nothing to do with this. Like, I was just walking down the steps to listen to the records, and this bozo grabbed me and fake pushed me. And so I go to my buddy, and I say, man, listen, dude. I say, I don't know if she's going to want, like, one of my records to replace it, or what she wants, or what she wants me to do. But I was like, one of the records got broken. I go, it's not my fault, but I said it happened. I said the rest of the records are here, but one's broken. He's like, all right. He's like, it's not a big deal. He's like, let me go talk to her. I said, okay. And his sister was much older than us, and so he comes back and he's like, don't even worry about it. He's like, it's not a big thing. He's like, she said she doesn't want any of your stuff. She said, you don't have to replace it. Not a big deal. And I said, oh, okay, that's cool. Well, I didn't know it at the time. I knew she was a huge Kiss fan. I knew she was like a member of the Kiss Army and that whole deal, right? And so I didn't know it then, but I would find out later that she was a Kiss groupie.
Oh wow.
So she's met all the members of this band. She's followed them around everywhere. And there's a reason why she owns all the records, right? And so she's like, don't worry about it, because I can get that record really quick from them. And I was like, that's amazing. So she ends up owning or managing one of these like CD warehouses when those were kind of a big thing here in St. Louis, which there is one still open here in St. Louis, but it's not hers. And it's since closed. But when you first would walk into the CD warehouse, all her Kiss stuff was hanging up on the walls.
Unreal.
Tons and tons of 8x10 signed and records signed, and all this is like, so she's had this huge Kiss memorabilia collection from all her time hanging around this band. And I had no idea what that was at the time, what a groupie was, and what all the things that played into that. But
Right.
It was one, and she was quite awesome, and I still appreciate her to this day, not being very cool about the record.
Right. You lucked out on that one, dude.
Oh, absolutely, without question. And I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, I got blamed for something I had. I mean, I don't even know what he's thinking. It's one of those stupid older brother things. Like, someone does something stupid like that, and you're like, why would you do something like that? Why would you, And I guess he never saw me walking down with the vinyl, but
Right.
come on, bro.
Yeah, it's funny because it's one of those. A theme on this show is Tony often gets broken albums from people, whether it's from his older brother, his adjacent brothers. Somebody is going to give him a broken record at some point. And we've talked about that before, but that I don't know, man. That's I was scared you're going to say, and that was like an autographed one that shattered. I was scared that's where that was going. I was like, oh Lord.
Luckily, it wasn't one of those. But no, she was cool about it, and I was appreciative of it. And I even mentioned it when I went into her store at some point. I was like, I certainly appreciate you not being upset about that record back in the day. And she's
Oh
like,
my God.
but yeah, I mean, I love Kiss, man. Last time I got to see him live was 2019, and I was doing a movie in Atlanta at the time, and we had like 3 days off for Labor Day, and I drove back from Atlanta just to see Kiss here in St. Louis.
Holy moly.
Uh, and it was supposed to be their farewell tour, but of course everyone knows Kiss does quite a few of these. But we were up against COVID, and so they broke the tour up. So they came to St. Louis, broke the tour up, came back after COVID, after people were still touring back in like 2000 when they came back to tour in like 2021 and so forth, and then added another leg of dates and came back to St. Louis again, but I didn't go to that show. So the last time I saw him was in 2019 when I spent like probably about $400 at their merch stand. So
Good gravy.
but it was awesome, man. Kiss is one of the best, and Ace Frehley's one of the all-time greats, and
I'm with you. I mean, now my appreciation, not just from that record, but as I've talked about before, like when I take my girls to school in the morning, we cycle through a lot of stuff. Like I will let them listen to some of the their hits one or whatever on Sirius, but then I also have classic rock in there, and I have Road Trip and all this other stuff. And a lot of times Kiss songs show up there, and I'm like, oh, this is Kiss, and I tell them about it, so they know. I'm trying to teach them, like. Whereas I might not have heard all this stuff, I want them to have as much musical exposure, especially for influential bands, and obviously Kiss is one of those for sure.
Oh, without question. I mean, it's one of the all-time great bands for sure, and one of the more colorful bands you'll ever see. So, I agree, man.
I can imagine.
I'm gonna miss Freely for sure.
Well, we also run into another musician in this scenario, and this one, I mean, and that's going to be D'Angelo, and there's a lot to that scenario. I remember having conversations because of the time frame of some of his music, but what is the scenario there? What do you have in terms of that?
So we haven't quite gotten to hit when he breaks out yet, because he
Right.
breaks out in 1995. We're not in 1995 on our show yet, so he's gonna release the album Brown Sugar in 1995.
Yep.
And this is a really sleek record for anyone who's never listened to it. And he had these like really cool videos where he's like in a club, he's playing against the piano, and he's got like a cigarette in his hand, and he's a really kind of cool, sleek musician, right? Kind of a throwback guy, and he's kind of a neo soul jazz fusion guy, and so a lot of his music tends to lend itself to that jazzy, old school throwback type mentality, and that's one of the things I always liked about him. And of course, we probably could have gotten more records and stuff out of him, but he was very picky in how he presented a record, and he had his own vices like lots of musicians and stuff. But so that's probably the reason I always loved this album, Brown Sugar, that came out in 1995. As a matter of fact, I owned it. I bought it off of one of those BMG Columbia House sites, right? As one of my records for $1 or records for a penny or 12 cents.
Yep.
And so I owned Brown Sugar. I didn't own Voodoo, his next album in 2000, and but I did listen to it. And same thing with Black Messiah, and when he filled with him in the Vanguard in 2014, and that's a great record because it's kind of a throwback to, like, I would say it's lends itself to being kind of like Sly and the Family Stone type of thing,
Yep.
more of that. And so yeah, he's a sleek musician, man, and a guy that I had a lot of respect for, and kind of wanted to talk about just because we don't really spend a lot of time on artists like him, and but he was. I think he tried to not be certainly didn't try to be mainstream, but I mean, his last couple albums went platinum, and
Yep.
Voodoo I think got up to number one on the charts at one point. So yeah, I mean he's an interesting guy, and um, for people that like to be gamers, you know, one of his songs is pretty iconic in the gaming world, and that's was it Red Dead Redemption 2 or something like that? I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's Red
yeah.
Dead 2. Yep.
He's he's got a song on that. That's
Yeah.
been an iconic spot. I've played that game a couple times, but I was thinking about what title it was at the time. But yeah, he's on that, and so a lot of people probably don't even know they've heard his music and have heard his
Yep.
music. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, he's definitely one of those that what's interesting to me is that he's one of those guys that, right now it's been making the rounds, and I think part of that's because of Joe Rogan, but there's been making the rounds of a lot of like these hip hop songs that have been converted into AI versions where they change it from rap to soulful type stuff. He's going to be one of those guys, like his music and his voice and his style is going to be one of those keywords that people use when they're describing into AI how to write a song. They'll be like, yo, in the style of D'Angelo. Like it's that kind of
right.
vibe. That's how like influential. I didn't realize the gap in time on the records. I think that's kind of fascinating because you don't see that as much anymore in the modern era, but that's a pretty big gap. I mean, that chunk of time between those, that's a long development time for him. So I wonder if that's like you said, I know he had some vices, but like I wonder if some of that is artistic
I think so.
derivative. Yeah, yeah,
So I mean, when you listen to like Black Messiah, his last studio album, I mean, he's got three studio albums in 20 years. So that's kind of the time frame you're talking about here, right? And so, I
right.
mean, most artists try to release some artists try to release almost every year these
Right.
days. It's so much easier to do it without having to put your albums out on vinyl and in all the physical medias. But nowadays it's so much easier to release that people just release all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
I think you want to be careful about how he presented his music. Like Black Messiah is very, like I said, like Sly and the Family Stone from the album. There's a riot going on, like that kind of album. And so and all his music's not exactly the same. It doesn't sound
Yep.
exactly the same. So he definitely tries to blend his music and his influences, which is something I really like about him, and is really a compliment. And that's why I say when he's like a jazz fusion throwback guy, he is kind of a jazz fusion throwback guy. And in this time frame of 2025, we don't have a lot of that going on these days, you know.
No, not at all. It's few and far between, and he's one of those again, one of those interesting artists that has a wide range of capabilities and styles and works. Um, and I'm going to segue that into another person that passed away, who's another artist who had an extremely stylized view, but covered such a wide range of stuff. And he's another person, much like D'Angelo, that a lot of people have seen his work, but may not know who he is. But his work is maybe arguably some of the most iconic poster work of all time, design work of all time, if you want to make that statement. And that's the artist Drew Struzan.
So I wanted to talk about him on this show, and the reason why we threw him in here, right, is because he's immensely talented, of course. But we, at our base and at our core on this podcast, we are a movie theater, a former movie theater, and movies in past, and we celebrate the history. And there's no, I mean, look, when you go into a movie theater, what's the thing you see the most of besides people and maybe food? Movie
Right.
posters.
Yep.
So movie posters are a big part of the movie going experience. There's not a time when I go to a movie theater. There's never been an occasion that I've gone to a movie theater where I didn't stop and look at all the posters for the upcoming films. I do it every time I go. Every week
Yep.
I'm at the theater. Every week I look at movie posters. And this dude was the icon of movie posters. And I kind of want to go through. I'm not going to go through all his credits because he's got a couple hundred credits, but I am
Right.
some of them because I think people don't realize. I would gather to say that I would say that every single person who listens to this show, and I don't know the exact number, but every single person who listens to this show has seen his work. Every
Oh
single
yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, obviously there are people living in, in log cabins that have never gone to movies in their entire lives and have lived off the grid. And there's people in third world countries that have never, seen posters or movies. But so they're kind of out of the equation. But I would say the vast majority of people on the planet have seen this guy's work.
100%. 100%. And look, if nothing else, once you start rattling this off, people are going to immediately be like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah." It's just going to be. In fact, while you're pulling that up, I was going to say Tony and I worked on a proof of concept piece together. It's this thing called Ether that we did,
Yeah.
and while I had no affordability to get Drew Struzan, we definitely, and this is prior to AI where you could just type in "make it look like Drew Struzan." We definitely modeled a lot of the key art that went into the poster for the production stuff, for the proof of concept stuff, was modeled after Drew Struzan, like 100% without a shadow of a doubt. Like that's what we worked on to make it happen. And so I have Drew Struzan stuff at home that I look at on the regular. I have like art books of his. Like I've been a fan of his work, obviously, because when you hear this list, it'll make all the sense in the world, especially on listening to this podcast. Like it is just pretty ridiculous.
Well, let's go through some of them. He started out in 1975. First film, Escape to Witch Mountain.
Yep.
Pretty good movie. Now I'm gonna go over some of them. I'm gonna bypass a lot of it because he's got a ton of credits. But he did Future World in 1976. Did Car Wash in 1976. He did a little movie. Maybe you've heard of it. I know maybe no one's ever heard of it, but maybe you have. Star Wars: A New Hope in 1977.
Right.
Doesn't get much more iconic than that. Thunder and Lightning in 1977. He's got California Suite, 1978.
Yep.
The Muppet Movie, 1979. The Frisco Kid, 1979. Empire Strikes Back, 1980. Fame, 1980. Oh Heavenly Dog, 1980. A little movie, maybe you've heard of it, Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981. Cannonball Run, 1981. Great Muppet Caper, 1981. The Fox and Hound. E.T. E.T. 1982. The Thing, 1982. Blade Runner, 1982. The Secret of Nim, 1982. 1982 is a big year for him. Tron, 1982. I mean, that's crazy, right? First Blood, 1982. Dark Crystal, 1982. The Sting 2, 1983. Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, 1983.
Yep.
Stroker Ace, 1983. Risky Business, 1983. Hercules, 1983. DC Cab, 1983.
Classic.
Guy, 1984. Police Academy, 1984. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, 1984. Cannonball Run 2, 1984. Dreamscape, 1984. The Ewok Adventure, 1984. Johnny Dangerously, 1984. Yep. And Police Academy 2, 1985. The Goonies, 1985, right?
Yep.
Turn to Oz, Back to the Future, Better Off Dead, which is Brian Pitt's favorite movie of all time.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, 1985. Police Academy 3 and Big Trouble in Little China. Meatballs 3, An American Tail. Police Academy 4. Nadine, Harry and the Hendersons. Adventures in Babysitting. Masters of the Universe. Born in East LA. 3 O'Clock High. Batteries Not Included. Sunset. Coming to America. Moon Over Parador. Land Before Time. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Harlem Nights, All Dogs Go to Heaven, Back to the Futures 2 and 3, of course, they're back to back. DuckTales, the movie,
Yep.
Taking Care of Business with Jim Belushi, Shipwrecked, Hook, Newsies, Stay Tuned, which is a movie we love on this show,
Yep.
Aladdin, The Muppet Christmas Carol, Hocus Pocus, We're Back, The Flintstones, Angels in the Outfield, The Mask, Shawshank Redemption, Mallrats, Cutthroat Island, Muppet Treasure Island, All Dogs Go to Heaven 2, Mars Attacks, Lost World Jurassic Park, Anastasia, The Phantom Menace. I mean, The Green Mile, Planet of the Apes 2001, Harry Potter, Sorcerer's Stone, Star Wars Attack of the Clone, Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets, Hellboy. I mean, it's unbelievable. Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith, War of the Worlds with the Tom Cruise movie,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
The Mist, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Not your favorite film, but still another
Yep.
Indiana Jones movie on the list, right? And This Is the End, Mob City, How to Train Your Dragon 2. I mean, and he ends up with Animal Crackers at the end. Oh, Force Awakens too. Force Awakens,
Yeah.
and he ends up with Animal Crackers too. I listen. I mean, the guys that list of movies is almost unparalleled by any artist that's ever made film.
So here's what's crazy is that you have Drew Struzan doing stuff like the Indiana Jones movies, the Harry Potter movies, a lot of those, especially Indiana Jones, photorealistic but drawn, painted. They were basically painted. I have a set of. He did some exclusive covers. So a long time ago, kids, for those of you that don't know about Star Wars, before Disney bought them, they put out a lot of content. And he did these like covers for basically a Star Wars sequel or Luke Skywalker, and everybody's still alive, and it's not what Disney made it, but he did these, and I have these cards still, and they're like metal print, beautiful pieces, and I've loved them forever. But they're all this painted work. But I want you to realize something: that the majority of his work, even his non-painted stuff, Fame is a very iconic poster, Cannonball Run is drawn, but some of these are not. Some of these start to get into typeset, and he's laying out stuff. And again, no computers used. This is all handmade layout, and it's an art form in and of itself. So not only is he a talented artist in the painting and the drawing elements, he's also a brilliant graphic designer on top of all that. And then once we start stepping into the modern era, you have all these modern titles where some of them are painted, some of them again are, I'm sure, digitally designed and laid out that way. It's just this guy's career spans, as Tony noted, some of the most iconic, memorable moments that still live on. And all he did was make the poster, which arguably on this show is one of the most important parts of a movie. And yet he's a craftsman from the analog old school days all the way into the modern era. And he never lost his craft. He never lost his style. He always had it. You knew when you saw, once you know that list and once you see the style, if you pay attention, you can find, most of the time, he does have some design ones, but most of the time you can spot a Drew Struzan piece of art. I think that is something not only to enjoy as a filmmaker and as a film goer, it's also something to aspire to if you are someone who's in the arts or interested in creativity, because like that's a level of achievement where it's iconic, right? His look was iconic, and I think again he's one of my personal favorite artists of all time. But it's a major deal to know that. To know that we will forever be able to celebrate his work because it's attached to so many great pieces of bigger art, if you will.
Yeah, it's just amazing when you hear that list of movies. mean, it's just
Yep.
such an iconic list, you know, and to certain levels, you know, like I mentioned a lot of movies in there like DC Cab and things like that that are kind of like not necessarily the most iconic films, but pretty awesome movies in their own right. But when you go back and you look at the poster for that, his stuff is just so amazing. Like you know, like you got ET. I mean ET. I mean you got um, Mr. T. Sorry, is what I was trying to say when I
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
getting in there like with the door of the cab, and I mean it's kind of iconic stuff, man. I mean, even if you're not super into the movie, the
Yep.
poster the poster would get you there, and he's one of the last great ones at doing that, right? Because like nowadays, some of the posters, I mean, there's still a lot of great posters out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking that by any stretch of the imagination. I just think that the way he would present those posters, you really wanted to see those films.
Yeah.
You know, you wanted, what's going on in this movie that he's got this going on, like Adventures in Babysitting, where they're all hanging from the rope, and you know, movies like that, and Goonies, and he's got this classic way of presenting all the characters on the
Yep.
post, which I think is pretty amazing. Um, so I have a lot of his kind of stuff hanging up because obviously I'm a not just a guy who likes to go to movies. I have a vast movie poster collection as well. A lot of which were signed by a lot of people. So you know, I celebrate his movies and in all his art and his posters, and yeah, I mean, to me, just going to the movie theater and looking at posters is pretty much synonymously linked together. I mean, there's just two
Yep.
things I do just by nature of going to the film. I'm like walking around. I like to get there, you know, 10 minutes earlier, so just so I can kind of look around and see what all the posters are, you know, which I think is
And the funny thing is, back in the day of the theater, we didn't have all these. We weren't reading trades. This is how you knew something new was coming out.
yeah, no,
Is a lot of times you'd either get it, and the other part of this is a lot of people don't realize that there's the pre-release poster, there's a theatrical poster, there's one sheets. The one thing that is very interesting about real movie posters, in case a lot of times people don't know it, but they're double sided, right? They're mirrored on either side, and there's a reason for that when you put them in the marquee. That's incredible work. That's just incredible work at the end of the day.
yeah, that's why I thought, you know, you and I, when he passed away, you had sent me a message, and
Yep.
I was like, man, you know, I before you had even sent the message, I was
Right.
thinking to myself because when I saw that, I was like, we got to feature him on the show
Right.
because he's so iconic to the movie theater experience that you can't possibly talk about be a movie theater podcast and a movie theater show and not talk about guys like this. You know, I mean, like
Yep.
we'd be doing the whole show a disservice by not mentioning him. And again, he's not, a name that not everybody knows, not but you know the artwork.
Yep. 100%. You've seen the work. Um, Well, I want to go into we'll move into our next one, and it's again no kidding on this. It's very tricky and painful to say because luckily for Drew Struzan, he did get to retire from his craft. Like that is one thing. It wasn't just an immediate like exit.
Yeah,
Uh this one's a little bit different because it was a very sudden. It was very shockingly sudden, much like Ace Frehley, who had a good long career. The next person is Sam Rivers, who many you might not know his name off the bat, but you've heard his music, and he was the bassist for Limp Bizkit, and his death was very untimely. It was just kind of not random. All death is random, but like it's a very like it's kind of shocking, I think, to a lot of people that just weren't really thinking about Sam Rivers passing away, especially because Limp Bizkit's come back out. They've got back into the limelight, so his past catalog of work is represented somewhat. What's your take on that? Because I know, and I have a Limp Bizkit story for me and Tony that I'd love to tell
yeah, of
at some
course,
point.
of course. Um, so anyone who really knows me from the '90s knows that I love this band. Okay, I still listen. My my history with Limp Bizkit is kind of complicated in a lot of ways because at one point it was really popular to be a Limp Bizkit fan. And I got into this band way before they got hugely popular. So I was into Limp Bizkit way before. I mean, $3 Bill Y'all, when that album came out, like I was like I'm a huge rock music fan. I'm a huge music lover. So like I when I get onto your music right away, I'm usually into you way before you break out into mainstream success. So I was on this band way before their next album, Significant Other, and Chocolate Starfish, the Hot Dog Flavor Water, and those next two albums really make them super mainstream all over the place, right? And everyone knows who they are. But $3 Bill Y'all is more like this eclectic, really heavy album that's got all these weird hooks and all bass lines for just these iconic songs. And it's a shame because I just saw Limp Bizkit last year here in St. Louis. And the place and this amphitheater was jammed with people. Jammed with people. I mean, jammed. I'd never expected this many people at a Limp Bizkit show in 2024. And it was just jammed. And unfortunately, they don't play that first album anymore.
Right.
They played the song Faith, which was the huge hit off of it, but they don't play Counterfeit or Stuck or any of those other great songs, right? And so you kind of miss hearing how great he was and how great this band can be, because Sam Rivers is very much a big part of the reason this band is so great. I mean, Fred Durst will even tell you that he found Sam by accident when he went to a club, and he was like, that's the bassist, like that's the guy, we need to get him. And then of course Sam's cousin is John Otto, who plays drums for Limp Bizkit. So they kind of ended up coming as kind of a package deal. And so the backbone of this band is that drum and bass and the turntable.
100%.
Like, and if you're not listening to it, you might miss it, but I don't know how, because I mean those bass lines throughout every Limp Bizkit song are pretty iconic, and he envisioned this band having that funky type of soul to it with the jazz fusion type soul to it. And they're not just like a new metal band. They're not just a rock band. They're not just some rap fusion band. Like, they have a deep layer to this band. Everybody talks about Fred Durst. He's a talented lead singer. Okay, he's a talented frontman, and he's the guy who gets all the pub in that band. But at their core, that is a very talented group of musicians. I mean,
100%.
Sam Rivers is a talented bassist. John Otto's an amazing drummer. Wes Borland is a terrific guitarist, and DJ Lethal is an amazing DJ. And that is a good group of musicians that have been blended together by a very charismatic frontman. And so I give them credit. That band is a lot more than just, a fly-by-night operation. I've always really enjoyed their music. I still do. There was a time frame in the middle of, from $3 Bill Y'all, Significant Other, and the Chocolate Starfish album, where after those three albums, it wasn't cool to like Limp Bizkit anymore.
Yeah, it's true.
And pretty much, and that's the reason they kind of stopped touring in the United States, was because they weren't selling tickets to their concerts quite honestly here, and so they stopped touring here, and they were just touring overseas, and you weren't getting as many albums from them, and it was kind of a shame, to be real honest. So I'm glad they're back, and I'm sad to see Sam pass away, and I know he had to have the liver transplant years ago.
Yep.
And so I knew he had some health things and stuff like that, but he's going to be missed because he's extremely talented, very underrated, because he's playing in a band that doesn't get that love for being critically great.
Now, I'm not sure which album. For some reason in my brain it was $3 Bill Y'all, but Tony and I traveled to go see Limp Bizkit play, I believe, in Birmingham, Alabama.
The album.
That's what I thought.
The album, yep.
Because I knew it had to be something where they weren't big yet, because they were actually opening. Ironically, later it would flip. and later in their touring life it would flip. But they opened, if I'm not mistaken, they opened for Incubus, did they not? Or was it
No,
the other way
no,
around?
Incubus
Okay,
opened.
okay,
Yeah, but they
okay.
were
So I couldn't remember.
both bands were in their infancy at the time.
Right, they
Yeah,
were brand new. That's what I remember from it. So anyway, Incubus at the time was not. This was not the Pardon Me While I Burn era
no,
of Incubus. For those that have been a fan, they were a heavier. Again, very similar. It was a good lineup to take Incubus to open for Limp Bizkit. Is what it was, as Tony said. But like the idea of you go to the show and you have like this metal fusion funk element of Incubus with DJ element, and then you bring in Limp Bizkit. It works really well. Well, we're at the show, and back in this time frame, Tony used to wear a lot of Birkenstocks. And he's got these sandals, and it was his thing. Now listen, at the same time that he's wearing these sandals, folks, this dude would get into any pit. He was in the mosh pit like anybody, like he was in there. That mosh pit's not my thing, but Tony was in there and he was giving it his all. And this is prior to what the kids would later term dancing. Matt, he's not paying attention. What's the mosh pit? I got a young guy that was in mosh pit. What's the mosh pit dancing called? Two-stepping is what the kids call it. They have a dance then. Prior to that, there was no dancing. So Tony's in the mosh pit with Birkenstocks on in a club. I believe it was the Nick or somewhere up there, but it was not, or maybe it was Vinyl Musical, or not Vinyl. I forget the name of it. But Tony's up in that side of it. There's broken bottles. There's noise. Limp Bizkit is playing. Tony disappears. And this dude comes back and he has one shoe on and one shoe is gone. It is just, this sandal is just somewhere in the disgusting world of this mosh pit. But here's the thing, and it's happened multiple times to us. Tony loses a shoe, and somehow that shoe, it makes his way back. And Tony got his second sandal back. He always gets it back.
yeah,
Who knows where it's been?
yeah.
It's like a stray cat, but it comes back, and it comes back to Tony's foot. And we left with both sandals that night. But when I described to you this pit explodes, especially in the song Stuck, when it explodes, it literally explodes. There are bodies flying everywhere, including Tony Sandal, who went on its own journey.
Such an amazing concert.
That was so good.
That was a lot of fun, man. I know we had talked about it. We were like, yeah, we should go up there for that. And yeah, we did. Incubus opening up for Limp Bizkit. And Limp Bizkit was on their first album, $3 Bill Y'all, which I think front to back is one of the greatest albums that's ever been released. I really do believe that, is as far as rock albums. It's just, especially in the 90s, late 90s. I mean, that time frame, I just thought that album was just, that was a mind bender for me. To me,
it was good. It's a great record. It still is a great record. I'll defend that album. I don't love some later stuff from them, but I will defend that album forever.
yeah, and I love this band. I like a lot of their stuff, but I just, yeah, I mean that record is sensational. And I know Faith is the song that always gets played, but that's not my favorite song on the album. Obviously, Stuck is my favorite song.
God. We all know it.
I mean, Counterfeit. Like I love all those songs, man. I just dig that record so much. And when you're listening to it, and of course I loved their Mission Impossible theme song, which I still think is Take a Look Around is a great song with another terrific bass line, and Sam was just amazing. And that
band doesn't exist without his groove. Like it doesn't exist without his style of playing.
Yeah, without question.
Sure.
So it'll be tough, I mean, obviously they've already released all these songs, but it's gonna be tough to replace a guy like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It would be rad if anyone's going to take the mantle. If we saw like a Robert Trujillo step up into that mix, that'd be pretty legendary too.
Yeah, man, it was. It'd be kind of neat to get a good bassist in that band to kind of step into his shoes a little bit. Yeah. Sour is another great song off that album.
Oh yeah, Sour's a good track too.
Oh, dude, such a good album. I listened to it not that long ago. Front to back, man. I just started and just let it go, and just check it all out. But I mean, you get so many great songs off that record. I mean, Pollution, Counterfeit, Stuck. It's a mind bender. If you haven't listened to that record in a long time, or you never heard it for whatever stupid reason, you gotta check it out. $3 Bill Y'all by Limp Bizkit. Iconic. Sam Rivers and his bass playing, amazing. And that was a tough one. I didn't expect him to go.
Yeah, I think that one's one of those that catches us all a bit off guard. And it's juxtaposition against our last individual. And I made a statement earlier that's like everyone's mom because she played a lot of those roles. But she actually passed away at a if I'm not mistaken, was it 93? June Lockhart passes away. Was she 90?
100 years old.
Oh, I'm sorry, 100 years old.
Yeah.
So she made it. She won the race. Like she did it. She did the goal. She knew the assignment and hit a grand slam. But her career as a mom and her careers and even she parodied herself sometimes, especially I believe it was in the 90s that she, maybe it was 2000, but she did some parodies of herself in some ways. Like I grew up watching her as a mom, as like a TV mom. She's just so warm and cuddly and friendly, and she's kind of that unrealistic, idyllic version of the perfect mom in a lot of her roles. And then she flips them on their head sometimes too.
Oh yeah. Listen, I mean, you're talking about an actress that got her start long before my parents were even alive.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty wild to think about it like that, right? And I mean, doing stuff like 1938, A Christmas Carol, 1941, Sergeant York, and then of course her like really iconic stuff where she's the mom in the TV show Lassie, and the mom in Lost in Space, which is just such an amazing show. And then we're talking about the old show, the 60s show. We're talking about, the classic Lost in Space, not the new show, not the movie, But I mean, of course, it lends itself to the 90s because Lost in Space would, release the movie, in the 90s. William Hurt and Mimi Rogers and all them. So it was kind of cool. I mean, and June Lockhart just, listen, if you never watched Lost in Space, that's your homework assignment for the weekend. You got to check it out. Now, I would prefer you to watch it on a channel called MeTV, if you get that channel, because it's on every Saturday night after Svengoolie, and through their entire sci-fi block. They got a sci-fi block that goes from Svengoolie starts at, they have the Three Stooges from 5 to 7, and then they have Svengoolie on for the next 4 hours, and then after that they run a sci-fi block till about 5 in the morning.
Oh, good gravy!
And so Lost in Space is part of that. That's how I think you should watch this show. But I know it's playing on one of those streamers that we're not going to mention because I can't stand them. I know this show's there, but I can't stand them. And I think you can find it, and it'd probably be better, but you're not going to do it because nobody's going to do it. But I think you can find them on Amazon. You might have to pay for some of the episodes.
It might actually also be on Pluto TV.
Could be
I think there's some stuff. Yeah, Pluto. And look, listen, let me tell you guys something. This is not, again, we've talked about this before. It's not an ad for Pluto TV, but you talk about going through, you're like, oh, hey, I'm going to watch a 90s movie. Yeah. If you just go to Pluto TV and you don't know what to watch, there's a 90s movie channel. There's an 80s movies channel. There's 7. There's black cinema channels. There's horror movie channel, pretty much anything you want. But then you can go down the list and there's TV shows, and some of those are classics, and you see them in black and white with commercial format. It's a different experience watching Lost in Space with commercials than it is just streaming it on Tony's least favorite streaming network.
Well, also the great thing about Pluto TV is that they also have, and we got to find a way to get advertisement from these guys, right? Because also on that channel, also on that service, which is free by the way, but also on that service, they have channels dedicated just to the show. To various shows. Like they have the Hogan's Heroes channel. And they have channel, it's lots of them like that. They have the Family Ties channel. the Love Boat channel. So I mean, you can watch these shows 24 hours a day. You can devote your life to them if you really want to. You know, you
Yep.
can devote the remainder of your life to watching these shows on Pluto TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If that's what you want to do, you're allowed to do it.
Listen, pro tip: you want to see an actor start. You want to see, and there's a sequence in which Julia Roberts shows up, and I've talked about this before. I watch nothing but the Law and Order channel. Love it.
That's true.
And there's guys that there's guys that show up in Law and Order that go on and have tremendous careers, but they just show up as like the either the hero, villain, or dead body of the week. And there is an episode in which Julia Roberts is, I mean, I think she was dating Benjamin Bratt at the time, maybe, but she like steals every scene she's in with. I mean, those guys were great actors, and I'm not taking away anybody's acting here, but when you put Julia Roberts in some of these scenes, especially even with Jerry Orbach, who's one of my all-time favorites, it is just absolutely brutal to watch. She's so good. That's Pluto. But the point of we're saying that is a lot of the content, like that, like even maybe Lassie shows up, but like the stuff that June Lockhart was in that era, you can find it there, and it is fun to watch. And it's, look, Lost in Space is family friendly. Lassie's extremely family friendly. Mm-hmm. And these are shows that you can watch and sit down and have fun. And yes, they are black and white. And yes, they're 4:3 square for those that don't know what that means. But there's still a lot of fun to be able to do that. And so I'm glad that she made it to 100. So good for her. Congratulations on winning the race. You won. Yay, you.
Yeah.
Excellent job. Excellent job.
She pops up in the movie Lost in Space in 1998 as well. She
sure does.
She's in the movie. So, it's, so yeah, everyone should check that one out as well. I mean, she clearly, a lot of the Lost in Space actors love the fact that they did that movie. So a lot of those guys are in the movie. And so that was a pretty fun movie as well. And so check that out. Just look at her credits because she's got a huge list. We're not going to get to them all today, but yeah, I mean, June Lockhart, 100 years old. She'll be missed because I like all those Lost in Space guys for sure.
So just to give us ending on obviously a fun note, but on a light note, do you have any movie out right now, whether it's just entered the theaters or hit streaming? Do you have anything is there a movie that stands out to you that's a must watch, that's more current, or even an old one, but something that maybe you just came across?
Let me think about this for a second because I wasn't expecting this question.
Well, I can give mine and maybe it'll prompt yours, but I have one prepped for you, and I haven't talked to you about this movie, so that our reactions will be very much live. I recently watched The Long Walk.
Oh, so good. Yes.
And I'm just going to tell you, I've been telling everybody, I happen to believe I cried a lot in that movie. I happen to think that movie is as good, for me personally, for where I am in my life, as a male. I feel like that movie's as good as Shawshank Redemption. I feel like that movie is about nothing but brotherhood and love. And I don't think it's for everyone. And I say that because it kind of got set up like a horror movie. And I would argue that it's very much not a horror movie at all. There's horrific things in it, but it's not a horror movie. It's not necessarily even scary. If you watch that movie with the mindset of, I think everyone should watch it on their own, but if you watch that movie from the mindset of when it takes place, the parallels it may have to a certain war that we fought in a time frame, the movie becomes one of the greatest stories I've ever seen about brotherhood, about friendship. And the only reason I say it's not for everyone, because it is very much a male biased movie. It's about men making this journey. And once you understand that, and I don't want to frame it wrong for anyone, but that is my current favorite movie of the year.
It's great.
That I've seen. I know it's so good and so powerful that I felt compelled to even talk about it on this show. And it's a modern movie, and it is worth every moment, especially if it doesn't matter what age you are. If you're a grown male, you will have experienced something in this movie that will touch you. I promise that.
Yeah. So I just got done working with Garrett Waring, who plays Billy Stibbons in the movie number 38.
Yeah.
And I had talked to him about this movie while we were working together. Now we finished working together at the very end of August 30th, 31st. So the movie didn't come out till September 12th. And we had talked about it while we were working together. And he said, "Listen, Tony," he goes, you're the first person in the wild to come up to me and talk about this movie. He goes, I'm so excited about it that he's like, it's one of my favorite pieces. That it's one of my favorite, movies I've done. And he goes, I'm just so thrilled that you even brought it up. But
it's so good.
He had sent me some pieces because they released posters for every single character, for like all the bigger characters. And so he had
sent, man.
Yeah, so he had sent me emails for so I have all the thumbs of all the guys and stuff like that for his pieces and stuff. And so he emailed all that stuff to me while we were working together.
Yeah.
So I got all his stuff from that, and he signed some stuff for me. Wonderful guy, tremendous actor, and he is in this movie. I can't tell you what he's doing in the movie because it'll ruin everything that's happening in this film. So I can't mention his character that much except for mentioning his name and his number, but he without question, in some of those scenes that you were talking about crying, this is where you're going to cry, is on his scenes.
Yep.
He's absolutely amazing in this film. And I told him so after the fact because I finally got to see it because I was really excited about watching this movie in theaters. I really wanted to see this one. And I agree with you 100%. The Long Walk is iconic. It's a really, really great movie. And there's a lot of people that, because, I know Stephen King has said some stupid stuff and some people were down on him and they wanted this movie to tank, but it didn't tank. Made about $60 million on a $20 million budget. So, but this is definitely a movie to watch for sure. You mentioned stuff, and I've been seeing a whole bunch of movies. I see a whole bunch of movies, so I always try to play them out of my head.
No. I just was going to make it fair, so I just didn't go on a rant about how good that movie was but that is literally, that's the movie I came into work and told everyone, the two guys that work here, we're mostly women, but I told them about it. I was like, you guys got to watch this. It's really good. And I've told my buddies and I've sent like, I love you text to dudes. And I'm just like, it just is that powerful of a great story. I wish I could say more, but I don't want to. I will tell you this: disregard and don't listen to any of the marketing. It is not a horror film. There's a little bit of thriller in it, but I would argue, without spoiling any statements or whatever, I would go into this movie feeling like you're about to watch a war movie, and I think you'll come out of it completely transformed and feel something really, really magical. Great movie. Great.
I think everyone should watch it. I don't want to present it as there's no violence or anything in the movie. There's violence in the movie. But
there's a lot of violence, yeah.
But I think it's quite good. Another movie that I saw recently that I really do like was Tron Ares. I thought Tron Ares was really good.
Oh, sweet! I haven't seen that yet.
And of course, I would like people to go see our movie, which came out in the last couple of weeks, called Soul on Fire. That's our film that opened up in the top 5 at the box office. So we were pretty excited about that. And that was filmed here in St. Louis. And
congrats.
I worked on that movie, and so I was an assistant director on that. Thank you. And it did pretty well. So we were really excited about that film, and directed by Mr. Sean McNamara, who recently did Reagan, the movie Reagan.
Yep.
And he did Soul Surfer years ago. So he's talented guy, good guy. And so check that one out. That's very family friendly as well. And you'll get to see some great performances by guys like William H. Macy and John Corbett and Stephanie Shostak and Joel Courtney from Jesus Revolution and Devon Franklin, who's also in Jesus Revolution. And definitely a movie to check out.
Good. Well, there we go. That's going to do it for this show. Again, thank you guys for all listening, and feel free to share your favorite war stories in terms of your past in the comments there, and we always love to see it. Any final words, Tony, before we click this bad boy and hit the stop button?
No, we're gonna film another. We're gonna record another show here in the next couple days. Let's hope we can get back to 1994.
Okay, the jinx is on you now. I'm free. Thank you. It's like the ring.